Great, and we're live. So welcome to our second TADSummit Preview. So this is a chance to meet and chat with some of the people that will be presenting at TADSummit. So we're fortunate to have Karel with us. Karel previously with Orange Liban, but now is the founder and CEO of Voxist. So Karel, what is Voxist?
Well, thank you very much, Alan, to have me today. So what's Voxist? Well, the idea behind Voxist is something that came while I was working on Liban at Orange. We had, in the first version of Liban, something that was very interesting, which was a voicemail, which provided personalized greetings and could transcribe voicemail into text. That was a very interesting feature that we deployed in a couple of countries, but that we never really, worked more later on. To be very honest, that wasn't the focus of Liban. So I always had a lot of ideas of things that I would like to add to that, but it wasn't the priority. We worked on other stuff. And recently, Orange decided that they wanted to focus more Liban on the international calling part, which was making sense looking at the user base. And I took that as an opportunity to leave the big group and launch my own startup. So now I'm starting Voxist. We have our first beta, which is an app working on iOS and on Android, which allow you to get your own voicemail system with the transcription of the voicemail into text. That's the first feature. Soon we'll add also the personalization, and we'll get back to where Liban was a few years back. And then there is plenty of other things that, as I said, I had ideas for in the past, and that I hope we'll be able to develop within Voxist in the near future.
Cool. No, that's great. That really covers my second question, which is why did you create Voxist? So moving on to the third, I this is I think a key one that a lot of people will want to know is how is it relevant to be working on voicemail today, given we are using chat, we're calling less, leaving voicemails less.
Indeed. Well, chat has been seeing tremendous growth over the last few years, and it's become quite a lot of spotlight. And what you could see also is that all those apps, looking at WhatsApp or all the other contenders, they have started adding voice calls. So why is that? Well, the thing is, indeed, in this generation, I think the text has become more of a usual way to communicate among the youngs. And it has to do with the fact also that when you're in class, you can't talk. It's not just because you prefer text, it's also because of the circumstances. And what I do believe is that actually we are in a world where we have a multimodal way of communicating. So we have a lot of channels that appeared, WhatsApp, e-message, etc., for chat. But we also had a lot of channels that appear for voice, which make it normal that the historical channel, which was the all good telephone, is going down, but it's not going to disappear. And personally, in my own life, I'm one of those person who doesn't like much writing. I much prefer to talk, and I think it is the case for some people. Some people are more comfortable chatting, more comfortable talking. And then in your daily life, there are circumstances where one channel is easier than the other one, whatever is your own preferences. You're driving a car, even if you love texting, well, it's a much better time to call. You are in the subway, even if you love talking, well, some people do talk. I found that quite amazing. But most of the time, you will start texting. And with today's technology, the good thing is you can do both, and you could do the same at the same time. You could write, and the other person on the other end could hear you, and she could talk to you, and you could read her. So it's becoming something achievable with today's technology. So I think we are in a multimodal environment with a lot of new media, and voice is not there to disappear. In the contrary, I think we are going to see a lot of new form of using voice.
Exactly. We had that with Olivier from Roger Voice, showing exactly that case, but focused on a specific vertical. I think one of the things you said is some people, it's not one size fits all. There are many different use cases, both for us individually, but there's a lot of people have different communication styles. And it's not just young. It just depends. For me, text is by far the easiest way on one of the IM platforms to get in contact with me, simply because I'm working globally. So we all have different styles. Sometimes, because I need to talk, get in contact with some people, I have to use voice. I have no choice. And I'd like, when I do use voice, for it to be as easy as if I was using text. So again, I think, even though we have our individual styles, we have to adapt that to get in contact with other people as soon as possible. So that's a really good point.
Indeed. In fact, actually, one of the funny things is when I started talking with a potential user of Voxist, I was focusing first on people who use the voicemail, being the most likely candidate to use Voxist. And in fact, what I discovered is that a lot of the people who say, oh, I don't use voicemail anymore, if I start talking with them and not just say, oh, okay, too bad, so it's not for you, which I started doing at first, but then I realized that when I talk with them a little more and I explain what Voxist can do for them, a lot of those users say, oh, wow, then voicemail could be relevant again. And that's, I think something also very important is that what we can do now with Voxist is bring the voicemail system from the old legacy telecom into the 21st century and make it relevant again. It can be both useful and it can be fun. I mean, a lot of the personal greeting stuff can be used to have fun and make things kind of more emotional with your callers.
Exactly, and especially if it can be just inserted into what we do every day. So there's no barrier, and there's no big standards barrier that we see like with RCS. I mean, let's face it, SMS is an incredibly old interface, and as an industry, there's just been no innovation. I mean, there's been a lot of work on standardization, but still today there's been very little. While you get you see, if you're like reading on Reddit, people will be sort of posting pictures from Snapchat where they're doing face swap, and there's just other stuff has moved on so far, while messaging and voicemail, which are two core VAS, remain stuck in the 1980s. So
exactly.
Definitely, I think that it has to be done outside of the traditional vendors. It has to be done in a more web-centric way. I think exactly, you're taking that right.
Yeah, I don't know if you're even aware, but because I know in the US, a lot of people don't realize that, but you probably know that. A lot of people, when they see Voxist, they are like, oh, it's a visual voicemail, like on the iPhone. And the truth is, it does that, but it does more. But even the visual voicemail is still something that a lot of users don't have, even on iPhones, because the iPhone provides you with that service only if your telco support the service has made a deal with Apple, which means that in countries like Spain, there is only one telco who has the agreement with Apple. So there is only one operator where if you have an iPhone, you get visual voicemail. The other operator, even if you have an iPhone, you don't have visual voicemail. And so I think something even as simple as the visual voicemail is still not so common as we would expect.
Exactly.
So we do have people who are still using the old, touch tone on a beautiful smartphone like the iPhone, and you have to do your tone 1, tone 2. You remember, is that 6 going to delete my voicemail or is it going to save it? And people are fed up with that. It's just, as you say, it's the 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember the last time I had an iPhone, which was many years ago now, I didn't have visual voicemail because of the plan I had. They only had visual voicemail on some of the higher plans. I think it was with AT&T. But since using Android, you've got so much more freedom in how you can do it. And with T-Mobile, they provide, well, again, I'm not sure which plan, but for the plan I'm on, I have visual voicemail, so I can sort of I just get the texts.
Yeah.
I never.
But again, it can depend of the plan. It can depend of the operator. Depend of the phone, and so that's why I think something like Voxist, where whatever is your operator, whatever is your phone, you get
just damn well
the
works.
normal state-of-the-art voicemail. That's something that makes sense.
No, absolutely. So I'm interested in what's your vision for Voxist? I mean, you've got a very clear focus given what you were able to achieve in the bomb and taking that outside into Voxist. But where do you want to take this company?
Well, so the voicemail on steroid part is really for me only a first step. I think, as I said earlier, the evolution, the innovation in terms of what you can do with voice that we are going to see in the next few years is going to be tremendous. There was actually an article by Stanford researcher just a few days ago where they proved that with speech recognition, you could write 3 times faster on a phone than using your hand. And it even more so in certain countries, where like Asian countries, where the typing interface can be so difficult. Yeah. So my belief is that the way you can interact with voice is going to change dramatically in the next 5 years. And what I've seen is in the past, over the last 9 years actually, I think it was almost 9 years ago, we started seeing some speech-to-text applications. And for a long time, this kind of plateaued. It did not evolve that much. But now, over the last 2 or 3 years, the technology has really taken speed, and we are at the point where, yet it's not perfect. So the visual voicemail within Voxist, the transcription of your voicemail within Voxist is informative. You can make out what's the meaning of the call, but it's not perfect enough. And I think this is something we could achieve in the next few years. And by then, that means you can actually be able to analyze the voice in real time. And that means you can start to interact. And my vision for Voxist is, I want the voicemail to be transformed into a vocal assistant. So the idea is that instead of actually leaving me a message, if I'm not there, you have someone you can talk to, and you can get the information or the call to action that you wanted to have. So it will be by step. At first, I imagine it will be things very simple, like you want to reschedule a meeting, you'll be able to reschedule a meeting. If you are a customer, you want to have the latest value on your account, you'll be able to have your latest value in your account, a little like an IVR in the past. But slowly and surely, it will become something much more interactive, and then the voicemail will be either a vocal assistant, or maybe it will be a hub that will allow you to connect to a multiple of vocal assistant that will appear in the next few years. We've seen many bot chats in the last 1.5 years, and those are starting with text because they as I said, the vocal part is not mature enough yet. But all those will evolve and want to be integrating with voice, and then by then, the voicemail will be a perfect means for those AI to interact, not with you, but with your contacts. And I think that's where you become a true assistant. Because when we talk about assistant today, it's not a real assistant. It's me talking to my phone through some AI. But an assistant, when in the old time we had assistant, that was not somebody you had to be behind and talk to all the time. It was somebody who could take care of stuff when you're not available. And the voicemail, what it is you're not available, and you want something to happen. And so, in the future, that's really where I want to bring Voxist, to the point where it becomes an assistant that can take care of stuff and will bring value to the calls.
Exactly. It's that intelligent agent. And it's more a sort of machine learning because it's being used in specific use cases rather than the more general case of artificial intelligence. I mean, we have the Alexa here at home, and the key is when you record voice in high definition, and increasingly we're having high definition calls. The good old PSTN is great, but half the challenge in doing the speech rec is just how filtered the voice has been.
Yeah.
But Siri is really good, and it's interesting. And we use it in a whole range of different use cases. It's in the kitchen, and it's a group use case that we tend to use it for. Now, for me, I think some of the improvements I'd really like is for Siri to recognize different voices. So when it's getting multiple commands, from different people at the same time, it can separate out and hopefully prioritize mine over everybody else's. But yeah, but also there was an announcement yesterday actually that Amazon's going to integrate next year Alexa with Sonos. So Sonos is the audio player, and generally you have to control it with an app on your smartphone. But then now it's integrated with Alexa. Now you can basically just play on this room or this group, this music from.
I would love to have that, because I have an Alexa and I have a Sonos. My main problem right now is Alexa still speak only English, and so that's one of the issue. Well, for me a little, because my accent is still so French after all those years. But still, Alexa do understand me almost 80% of the time. But for my guests, for some family members, it would be so much nicer and efficient. It will speak French. But if it were to speak French and speak with my Sonos, that will make life even more fun at home.
That's true, yeah.
And actually, one of my first hack, before I started Voxist, I went to an hackathon with Amazon, and my hack was to get Alexa to play voicemails. So you could say, hey, Alexa, do I have voicemail? Yeah, you have 3 voicemail. I can play my voicemail, and very simple hack, but it was fun to do.
Excellent. Oh, that's really great. So just moving on, because time's marching on here. Technically, what makes Voxist different from previous legacy voicemail systems?
Well, I think what happened in the last few years. I say that you had a lot of speech technology evolution that are cloud-based, and you have a lot of telecom applications that are cloud-based. So what's very interesting with Voxist is I've set up everything in the cloud, and actually I'm using a lot of Amazon services, but things like Dockers, microservices. So it allows us to have something that can scale very easily, and that can be deployed worldwide, in the push of a button. And also it's something that can evolve quite fast, because when you're using microservices architectures, you are in a place where adding new services is much more easy than with legacy system, which used to be quite monolithic. And also that means I don't know any telco legacy system in the back end. I'm actually using TADHack for the part of the voicemail. It's also with the launch of Voicecom last year, it had allowed us to be very efficient in the way we can develop the voicemail backend.
Cool. No, that's good. Again, based on open source, highly, it's massive community behind it, enables you to ride a wave of so many developers around the world that are also building on RESTCOM. So that's really cool. Then just to wrap up, how do you intend to distribute Voxist, get it into customers' hands? What's your go-to-market?
Cool. Well, I'm starting with something very simple, which is kind of leveraging the whole user base of Libon. So there will be, for the start, a lot of pure B2C, going through the app stores and using the community, the previous community to get the word out. But I don't believe this is sufficient. And one thing I've been working on is I've been talking to some operators or some large companies that might be interested in deploying that either internally or for their own customer. I've been talking with both OTT telecom that want to extend some of their services, and they don't want to spend time and energy on the voicemail, but they want to provide a great voicemail to their customer. And I have been talking to some B2B operators that want to bring innovative services to small businesses, and for which they think that Voxist is a great fit for their client base. So that's very interesting. Actually, what I've seen is a couple of companies that are trying to bundle external services in terms of security, mobile virus technologies, etc. But instead of developing them themselves, which doesn't make sense for small telco, but even for bigger one, I'm not sure if it makes sense. They are trying to find the best innovative solution on the market, and so that will allow us to work with a couple of those and rely on their distribution channel to get to the market.
Yeah. I think that again is a good point you raised. Is this shift with being cloud-based? You can go direct, but it's not just a consumer angle. There's whole enterprise. There's many different types of service provider coming to market that are focused on enterprise.
Yeah.
So there's that channel, and of course there's the good old telco as well, if they decide to move. And again, it depends. I mean, there's a big spectrum of different telcos. You've got very innovative ones that are trying to grow rapidly, like Truephone, all the way through to sort of good old state monopolies like Orange. And each has a different speed of operation. But I think for a small company like yourselves, you've got so many more options now for distribution.
Yeah, we even have been discussing with some partners in terms of API. So they don't want us to provide an app because they already have an app, or for many other reasons. But on the other hand, they don't want to spend time on building the service. So we are looking at could they connect to the back end and consume the service through API. So we will probably do that for some tests before the end of the year. Or we'll see. Maybe that's also another go-to-market strategy that will.
Exactly, because it's a wholesale deal, and it's just you're just exposing it through an API, and then it gets wrapped up. Yeah, I had the same thing this morning. I was on another call, and I had contractors walking behind me.
That happened.
All the time. But cool. No, this is great, Karel. It's congratulations on making the break, getting out into the big wide world, and trying to make a difference on something that does need reinvention. So it's I know it's a terrible sort of marketing word, but I think where you want to take voicemail into being a voice assistant is relevant, is right. I think the timing is really interesting. I mean, using Alexa at home, it's useful. It has a clear use case for our family, and we use it in a number of ways. The shopping list, a whole host of things, and being able to transform the voicemail into a more, again, initially into a number of very straightforward use cases that add value, and then over time becoming a more broader assistant that then can interact with other voice-based or other text-based bots. Can be very interesting.
Indeed, hopefully. And thank you very much for talking about Voxist. And we'll be at TADSummit, so I'm looking forward to seeing all of you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Karel. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.